historic events in Orlando a couple of days ago, the mass shooting in a gay club in Orlando that caused a lot of deaths, a lot of anxiety, more than 50 people. A lot have been said about this mass shooting, and a lot of people are, taking advantage of it or politicizing it, and it seems to me that when violence is involved, the Muslims will always go to terrorism and associated with terrorism. No, we're not talking about the person, the psychology of it, the mental status. We don't even look at this person's life or even if it existed. Our guest today, Executive Director of Mecca and also Imam Masjid Noor al-Islam. I think the reason we have you here, and I think your insight, and you've been struggling with this, and you've been a champion of minority, African American, Muslim, and also homosexuality in Islam, and also open your mosque to gay Muslims.
I'll put it in this context so you can see how it sort of unfolded. Last week, we were celebrating the sequential American Muslim, Muhammad Ali. And as a black man, a perfect example of an American Muslim who happens to be a black man, who's a champion, who's done various things in the world, and he's always remained true to his vision of what Islam was, to treat people as other human beings, to work with people in his community, both as Muslims and non-Muslims, and to seek the very best for people. And I think that was changing the way how people were understanding Islam just during that particular week of dedication to him and honor of him. I mean, just look at the people who were there eulogizing him and lazing around. I usually get up at 6:30, but I just so happened to decide I was going to stay in bed a few extra hours. And a friend of mine called me and says, "Have you seen the TV? Have you seen the news?" I say, "No, I haven't." I turn it on, and there it is. 20 people have been murdered, 40 folks have been injured, and I'm like, what? So of course, the bottom of my heart dropped out, and I'm going like, I hope this guy's not Muslim. I hope this guy's,
First things comes in mind.
First thing that comes to mind, and so as that part sank and it was confirmed, his name is Omar, I'm going like, oh, it sounds like it is. And then I says, okay, I allowed myself to be flush with the emotion for a minute or two. And then from there I says, okay, now we have getting a grip on this. We're not going to jump to conclusions, but let's get more information and facts. And as I listened more intently to what was going on, I says, there's some things here that just doesn't make sense. Even though the media was saying it might be ISIS or associated, they were careful not to say immediately that it was. But so I says, okay, well, let's listen some more. And when I heard the father say that this young man became so upset when he saw two men kissing in Florida, like in Orlando even, So
it's the first time to go out, I guess.
Absolutely. So I'm like,
needs to go out more often.
So I said, well, something else is going on here. And then as I learned of him being a security officer, access to guns, his wife saying he had some mental issues or abusive tendencies, co-workers saying that they found him to be off a little bit and things on a mental state. I said, there's some other issues here. And what triggered him into this episode may be a hidden mental health issue, which we can't really tell at this point, that may have triggered him to go through this particular process. And so as things continued to unfold and more information came out, it became more clear to me that the guy may have had some underlying issues dealing with his own sexuality, because in Muslim context, quite often, his parents are from Afghanistan, first generation in, they may have forced him into marriage, which may not have been his particular choice. And when you're forced to do these types of things, sometimes in the end, that people find out later or are abusive to spouses, their children, and it's all because they're unhappy individuals. Not necessarily true. Everything is true about that, but it just seems to pinpoint that that's one of the possible prongs in the fork in the road that we
Hmm.
can go down.
So the
So
underpending, he has issue with women and has issue with his own sexuality.
that might be part of the case because in my own pastoral counseling, I've counseled a number of older men who that was the situation. They didn't want to get married, but the family forced them into the marriage.
I
They
see.
did so to be obedient sons. And same thing for some women as well. They're being obedient daughters. And then, 10 years later, it explodes.
Hmm.
Or once the children are gone, are raised and gone, then they divorce and then start living their lives as they feel that they should have in the beginning.
Hmm.
Thank goodness the vast majority of those people who are in those circumstances did not suffer from some type of mental situation. And also to Afghanistan, they have cousins, cousin marriage, and the mental issue may also be he might have been bipolar, some other issues that
Hmm.
come from the cultural expression as well. DNA problems.
Well, let's delve to this a little bit. I mean, he been described as racist, as belligerent, as toxic, hate women, hate gay. He seems like he should pledge his allegiance to Donald Trump than ISIS.
Yes,
And then we have here Donald Trump coming up with accusing or alluding or I don't know, insinuating that President Obama, has something to do with this, and just he was saying, look, we are led by a man that either is not tough, not smart, or he got something else in mind. What does he mean by that?
well, I learned a long time ago that whenever a person points the finger at somebody else, the one you should be watching is the person telling you to look at somebody else.
Hmm. Well, I mean,
So
we've been looking and trying to figure out. We really, there's a lot of people buying into this.
just because people like the circus clown doesn't mean that the clown should run the circus.
I like that.
Okay?
We're gonna find out in a few months if
Oh,
he's gonna run this.
definitely.
Because I think you're right on. I think the politics is becoming like a circus.
Your
Okay.
statement very, and I think that he would fall better under the category of being a follower of Donald Trump than he would be follower of ISIS or any other type of thing, because he exhibited all the things that people like, the things that people want, and Donald Trump, he also wants those same things.
Uh-huh.
The racism, the sexism, all of these issues. And I also think too that he may have had some other issues because one thing that we find is that people who love guns, people who use guns, they have a sense of loss of power,
I
and a
see.
gun substitutes or supplements their concept of being powerful. And so that may be another thing that may be in there in terms of that. So I just don't know, but I'm so glad that the communities there, the Muslim community, the car representative, the queer Muslim community, the Muslim community generally, and people of color, Latinos,
Yeah.
blacks, Asians, all of them have worked together in that community because I think because of the tourism aspect there, you have a great diversity of people living there, and they're not letting that just destroy them. They're not letting that break them apart.
Seems like the reaction of the Muslim community a little bit different this time. I mean, they were first to react, and and they preempting what Trump is about to say, and as opposed to some of the reaction from the conservative, that they are kind of I'm not saying they are happy that this happened to in a gay bar, whatever. You have the Texas lieutenant governor tweets, read what you saw, and they have another pastor saying that that he was happy this happened to the gay, and this is punishment. It's like what happened 9/11 too. And it seems like the Muslim are the, I'm not saying the only one, but they are the first one to come out and condemn that mass shooting.
Yes, and I must say that I commend Carr for doing so. They actually invited me to participate in that event, but I happened to be on NPR, and I just couldn't make both of them.
No, it's hard to do.
They called me for the last 16 years. I've never had a call from them.
Oh,
and
really?
For them to do so, I've been sort of like persona non grata.
What you?
These large organizations, you know.
I see what you mean. I'm sure CARE will be from a terrorist organization to the most conservative, but they're not going to keep everybody happy. But the statement they made was very interesting. That they were looking at it from a civil rights issue. They said the gay and lesbian and homosexual were standing shoulder on shoulder with the Muslims, and
Yes.
I found that's very interesting. I've never heard that kind of things before.
I think that's wonderful, and I love it so much. But as some of the imams will always tell the LGBT people, just don't do that sex thing.
Shoulder to shoulder, we're okay with that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that tells you it's not really in Islam. It's not really terrorism. When you have the FBI kind of putting a lot of resources trying to entrap the people who has no capability to commit such a crime, like the young Somali here in the state. And
Yes.
then those people do have the capability and they have the resources to do it. They are left out.
One of the problems I find is that the government is not diverse enough in the people who are participating in these things. They keep depending on those what is his name, Daniel Pearl types,
the so-called
experts, and they don't know anything. I know from personal experience of studying abroad and living in these cultures that many of my white classmates never had the opportunities that I was given as a man of color to participate in understanding the Muslim culture and Muslim people across the board. And so what they do is they keep depending on these experts who don't know anything. And in often the case, the idea is to think that, well, white is right, white people know better, therefore we'll utilize them, and quite often they continue to fail to know exactly what's going on at a particular time. So I think here in America we've been lucky to a certain extent because Muslims have turned on, when I say turn, I mean that they've turned in people who they find to be dangerous or believe could cause harm to their community. And I think that's a good thing.
Putting Islam on trial, that's not the way we should approach this. Will be who truly represent Islam in America, Muhammad Ali or that Omar, Mateen, or that shooter? Is that a legitimate question?
For the immediate future, and probably the next several days, it will be this idea that Omar and Mateen, because Trump is harping on it. But I think the reality is that Muhammad Ali will remain a hero in the minds of people who really matter in the process. Long gone.
Long gone.
So I think that what it is that the media is trying to set it up. Is this two competing people who are not liked? Can we keep them at each other's throats? Like I said, pointing to other things rather than why aren't the media talking about the Wall Street criminals who have not been put in jail yet? What about the corporations that keep all their money and get away with tax things and keeping their money overseas in places like the Cayman Islands? Why aren't they dealing with the issues of Governor Snyder allowing a panel of people who are not experts to poison those children in Flint? There are just so many different things, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
This is like the Wall Street jihadists and those financial ISIS. We don't hear about him, but
we don't hear about it.
Yeah.
And so it's a way to try to divide and conquer. But thankfully, through the efforts, and I think sometimes small efforts that have been done over the years, the communities see that they have to support each other because it's like the thing. I think the one that I'm not certain who it is, I forgot, but the statement that says that when they came for these people, I said nothing, and when they came for those people, I said nothing, and when they came for me, there was no one left. think people have learned that lesson or are learning that lesson better and seeing that we have to stick together. I really see the times now like in the late 40s in the labor movement. People are starting to coalesce for the benefit of the greater good.
Imam Daayie Abdulla, Executive Director at Makkah Institute, and also the Imam of Masjid al-Noor. And we are here in Ramadan, and the timing really kind of spoiling our blessed months. And we thank you so much for giving us the time. And I'm sure this is not going to go away, and we're going to have to call on you. Want to call again, and so we'll say Ramadan Kareem and enjoy the rest of the day.
All right. Take care.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.